and stop for a
Hello.
while.
Hello, world.
Hello, hello, hello.
Hello.
Well,
We have
welcome
this.
to 186 episode of DevKami. I'm swimming, and also this
I
is Tristan is back.
we have a banner.
Welcome.
Hello. I
Yes,
am Tristan.
yes,
I am Chilam,
uh,
and I have
yeah.
something fun to share. Is that I'm not sure if Cool is trolling, but Dao E can auto complete swimming.
Yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
do not know how he do it. I do not know how he do it. To be
Oh, do you have
honest,
access to Dolly now?
Not me.
Did because I think there's still a wait list, right?
yeah, but for some reason he had someone have it, and he used
I'm
my
gonna show you
photo.
guys.
He
So
for some reason managed to put my photo in a generation,
like,
in the image generation. So I don't understand how.
and what with you with a watermelon?
Mhm. So I don't know.
uh, and then
Yes.
yep. You see,
Also,
I'm not sure.
if you say swimming, Dolly knows about swimming. Is that it? Or do you have
Yeah,
to
I do
upload a
not
picture?
know.
I don't know how
I
he
don't know.
generated it, or he's just
Yeah,
trolling.
Mm.
yeah. It could be trolling because it's not Dali like at all.
We are a bunch of trolls.
Yeah. So with that said, let's start with our event. Nothing happening. Actually, next week will be early. Ruby Tuesday should be next week, right?
Yeah, this coming Tuesday.
Yep. Correct.
It's uh it's it's the first in a long time where we
Yep.
have a physical meetup. So it's at the Hivekind office, formerly Rapid River, at the Vertical Business
Yep.
Suites, level 25, Tower
Mm-hmm.
1. So if you're in the Bangsar area, then just
Yep.
pay a bit visit. Of course, it's the usual pizza if
Yep.
you are coming.
Cool. And also, then the next thing that is happening is we don't have other event, but we do have a public holiday.
Really? When?
When is the public holiday?
It's
I
on
think it's
Saturday,
this
Awal
set.
Muharram.
Yeah, but it's for
Mm.
people that doesn't work on
Yeah,
Saturdays. It's not that thing. But you
Ah,
can
so
yeah,
still
but
there's
get it.
no replacement holiday then.
Yeah.
do I really? For some reason, I
Oh,
thought I have any
Saturday is
holiday.
technically working day.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. Then why the
Yeah, we
hell? Why the
privilege.
hell?
Or your
Then why the
company they
hell?
honor it.
Yeah, which is weird. Or I read my calendar wrong. Let me quickly check it because it's important. Or if I have to work. I have to work. I have to
You
work.
don't have to work on a Saturday. Why do you
Yeah.
have to work on a Saturday?
No, I have to work on a Monday.
Okay. Yeah,
I have to
because
work on a
Saturday doesn't
Monday.
get a replacement.
Correct, correct, correct. Oh well, whatever, doesn't matter.
Siri is disappointed.
Yes. It means that it's office day.
He
So
realized that he lost a day.
yes. No, not really. Let's say I have something happening. I don't have plan on that day, just that I'm sick of doing AWS shit. So yeah. AWS had a lot of good idea only if you set up your environment early on, to be honest. So that more of the run later. Let's start with. So this week is slow news week, so I can open up all the tab.
Or you can open
Some.
up some of the tabs from last week,
Oh yeah,
the
maybe
ones
that
that
too.
we never got to
Did we? I thought
look at.
I covered everything. Okay, more on that later.
You know.
Let's
Or you
start
can just
with
click
a
on
new.
the previous post button. We have a previous post button
Oh,
on the
I
thing.
only know how to use command line. So sorry. Okay, let's start. Let's start with the actual news before we throw everyone. First one is Google had another system language. So this one is Carbon. It's a replacement to C++, a bit different than say Go. Go is a application language. Uh, Carbon is more of a C++ replacement. So in a way, just a replacement in terms of the language, not necessarily the libraries.
It's not really. It's an extension of C++ because they've been trying to push this new standard.
Yep.
So now
Okay.
they are forking
So
into
is it like a superset of C, just like C++
yep C++.
is, and
It's
just
a
like
support.
Objective C?
It's a superset of C++.
Mm.
Right.
So
So
like Objective C
originally,
and C++, right? But it's a superset of C++.
yeah,
So that means all
originally
valid
they
C++ is valid Carbon.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Go on.
So originally they want to push it into the C++ standard.
Right.
Mm.
Yeah. So after they got rejected, then they announced this.
Okay.
But
So it
C++
will
syntax can get really weird already.
yeah, it get for some since when function is called fn. Like
Yeah.
what on earth? Since
No,
when?
that's a valid C++.
I know, but since when?
I don't know. I didn't
Okay,
check.
so it can interoperate with existing C++ code from everything to template, and it will build with your C++ build system, which is awesome. It's open source, so community involved. So they got performance matching, bidirectional interop, gentle learning curve for people that know C++, which arguably, if you know C++, arguably if you know C++, you will know everything. So then you have expressibility, migration, They had a few idea from the language, for example. So no, it's similar to JavaScript, TypeScript for JavaScript, Kotlin for Java, etc. So yeah, interesting, but I do not know if I use it. Originally, I thought I have a 3-day holiday, I can actually use it, but forget
Yeah,
it.
what can I use it for?
I don't know what to use it for, to be honest.
You're still using
Either
C++
way,
stuff, literally.
yep. So with that
It's just
said, I'm gonna move.
some sugar
Uh-huh.
involved.
Okay.
I would
Next
say lah,
one.
as of right now.
Yep. So this one is about Unix file system is broken. His problem is with symbolic links, and the complexity is introduced with the API. So symbolic links is how okay. I'm trying to understand this one, but apparently there is actually complexity involved for it.
So
I would thought that the whole thing is really about interrupts, but it's actually more than that. It's
what's
actually
the
how the file
problem
system
with
works.
symbolic links? And is it a problem with soft or hard links? Well,
Uh,
I guess a hard link is not a symbolic link.
correct. Hard link
But
is not
yeah, so
symbolic
what's the
link.
problem?
Uh, they actually didn't. My mind still wrap around it. Okay, so hard symlink is created because hard link are restricted within a
Mhm.
same file system. Symlink do not have this restriction, so it allows user to link to somewhere else. This will lead to lstat call, which provide a mean to identify what the last computer part link is. Unfortunately, insufficient handling of symlinks point to directly earlier in the part. So application could attempt to check for each component for part individually, but not atomically. So an application can make a change to one component process due to security vulnerabilities. So meaning there's not enough check on the symlinks actually. So an application can override it and cause issue in short. So which is why there's a no follow, which fail if something happen. So in short, the point is it does not do enough. It does not do enough check. So really to security
Understandable.
problem. Correct. So they suggest to ban symlink. I don't think it's a good idea because a lot of applications use it. But interesting idea. I think we figure if it does happen, we figure out like
This
because
day we
we
are off
work
Symlink lah for work. We used to use Symlink to easily
correct,
chain code together, especially those interpreted languages like
correct. But
JavaScript.
nowadays, not so much anymore. I mean, there is one exception. The only one exception is CUDA installation on Linux actually with
Oh,
symlink to certain directory for it to
that is
install.
understandable.
Yeah, correct.
Some of
It's
the
a library
libc stuff,
installation lah.
yeah, some of the libc stuff still rely on it.
Correct,
And
correct.
its symlinks are also often used in deployment so that everything is atomic. Once you
Correct.
copied all of the files in a particular folder, instead of restarting the application so that it
Correct.
will read the new files, you just switch the symlink to point to that particular directory,
Correct.
and then
Correct.
that's done.
Yes. So yeah lah. Interesting idea, but I do not know how far it goes because even though on Linux is flexible, but this kind Linux is used on all sort of environment, even the very traditional one. So this kind of change may not be as easy as we want to think about lah. So I'm going to move on to the next one. This one actually is from Tristan. Value of Code
Yeah,
is actually a free resource for programming. It
yeah,
covers
just
multiple
download.
languages.
It's free, but it's not.
Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
free.
it's not the learn C++ in 30 days, for example. Like it's a very high level, quick
I've seen
overview.
stickers of this recently. But I forgot where.
And this is from the
Where?
guy, the Flavio Scopes, I think, or Flavio Copes. I
I've seen
forgot his
some of
name.
the laptops in around office
Mm,
area with a sticker of this.
yeah,
Oh,
he's
really?
he's been writing a lot of So it's similar to the guy, the Ray Wenderlich, or I forgot his name again.
Mm-hmm.
The one who wrote a lot of articles for iOS and then branched out to uh, different technologies in the Apple ecosystem, and then they wrote
Mm-hmm.
out books, etc. So the same guy here, it's not the same guy, but this is similar to that. He wrote a lot of books and a lot of articles, and now are uh, ex- like expanding into books. And this is one of
Yep.
his collections. So if you, it's useful if you want to quickly compare something without going deep into a
Mm-hmm.
technology. So it's a very good if you just really need an overview of something. Like you want to compare PHP versus I don't know, like Python here. Like
Yep.
what's the how does it look like? What are the usage? How what are the common things that you do? What's your package manager for
Mm-hmm.
that?
Yep. So let me pick something up. Da-da-da. Yeah, I think it's general. It's a general thing to go. Yeah, but it's cool. It's still a good idea to start from here, then go advanced later, right? So let me
Yeah,
go through a few things.
well, usually
Go
you will
on.
pick this up if you want to, yeah, to really to compare. It's not something
Yep.
that you want to go deep dive into. Like you won't
Correct.
learn as well as like a proper course or a proper book for that
Correct.
particular technology that you're interested in.
Correct. And I can see from JavaScript, they try to cover the breadth, but JavaScript had a lot of stuff. But yeah, I agree. It's the basic mostly. So anything to add? If not, I'm gonna move on.
No.
So this one is actually something I add a bit later. This is actually a paper airplane design database. So maybe I'm gonna try that one day. So this will actually show you the fold, the step, and all that. So yeah, but they do not have. They even have distance filter, which is very interesting.
Yeah, back then I was crazy with paper planes as well
Yep.
when I was younger.
Yes. Interest. So either way, if you're interested, it's there. So yeah, I'm gonna move on. Git story. So this is actually creating a video animation for your Git commits history. But if you do it for DevKami, chances it'll be like new episode, new episode, new episode, new episode, new episode. It'll be a bit boring. But if you do your Git properly, then you can find out who do what, and from there you can actually just stop for a while and see what is missing, right? So yeah, it's a cool idea if you need it. I do not need it for now, but yeah, because and also if you can use if you have enforced your commit properly, then you can do a very good visualization for this thing. Then if somebody did not do proper git flow, then you can find out from here. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, anything to add? If not, I'm gonna move on.
No.
So this one is actually a rendering language, so that you can actually do light transport simulation. So in short, you can use this to actually simulate simulate. Ooh, there. One day I'm going to set up my the video redirection, the audio redirection. Yeah, actually, we can. So with Python and some code, you can actually use it to generate scenes in a game. So, or even artwork if you want to. So yeah, it's a research topic. I think it's pretty cool. Uh,
I knew Sumi would like it.
yeah.
Well, what's special about this?
Uh, there is traditionally to do this is actually take time for you to do lah. It takes the time, it takes resource. It's not the easiest thing to do. Now you have these tools that make it easier to do this. It's still not easy, but you're still talking about loading a scene with XML, generate all these. So it's easier to do, but it's not the easiest thing to do previously. So very useful for game or video animation and all that lah. So yeah. So in this case, for example, I'm going to show you an example. So this is example they used, import library, blah, 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 make sure your GPU add up. Then, so look at the variants, not important. What's more important is this one. Is you load a scene in XML. So the scene is designed on an XML file. So what is this? It's a bit like actually it's not at all. It's nothing like a SVG. So in this case, there's sensor to point the perspective of the camera. What's the shape of things inside? What's etc. So in this case, you can set up a camera and all that with XML. Then with Python script, you can render it. And using Matplotlib and all that, you can just take the binary and render it on the screen. It's cool. I just think it's interesting, that's all. So I'm going to move on. This one is also interesting. Previously, RStudio is called RStudio because it focuses on R. Then later, RStudio, it can be used on Python because Python is one of the data language nowadays. So because they did so, as a result, they decide to change the name to POSIT. So yeah, it's a name change, but it's still the tool is still support R, so they're not dropping R support at all. It's just a name change, that's all. So they are building more tools for Python.
But why POSIT? Like, what's the meaning of POSIT?
POSIT means it's a way to put out an idea. You posit your position in a debate. You posit an idea. So it's something like position, except you call it posit. You place an idea. So it's one of those big words. Put forth an idea for discussion. So yeah, so in this case, it's still correct in the way that data science work is about presenting idea with code, verifying an idea with data. So you have an idea, then you use data science tools to test your idea against the data. So that's why it makes, in this case, the name is very apt because you are positing an idea in code after all. So, and RStudio is very interesting because in the early day of modern data science, as in when people talk about data science code, when things got a bit more popular, R is one of those language, and we have, then after that, RStudio comes out, and it actually is one of those data science first IDE for language. So yeah, which I find this very interesting. So what is Quattro? So yeah. So this is our publishing system. Yeah, because one of the big thing from how do you publish a result to from R code to to outside world, right? You cannot just throw our code and hope people run. So they have a publication system. It makes sense. So yeah, it's a name change for a very cool product. So with that said, let's talk about previous episode, because I think if we have time, we have a lot of time.
You have time, you have plenty of time.
Because I have nothing to rant about, to be honest.
I
Actually, I have
thought,
a lot
I
of
thought
things.
you can rant about serverless. No, you don't want to talk about those.
I can talk about serverless.
I think
actually,
you're the
as it turns
serverless
out,
expert now, right?
yeah, as it turns out, we already covered everything last week. Actually,
Ah,
yeah, a lot of stuff I decided not to add from the engineer's mind thing, which I forget to add here, lah. So let's start with two things I want to show you guys. It's very cool. AWS CLI 2FA. It's very cool. This is what makes me nuts for the whole week. As it turns out, it's a good idea, but more of that later. Yeah, I'm going to show my book after this. Okay, so here's a question. Here's a question I hope somebody online will answer. How do you, so on AWS, if you require 2FA to access a resource, how do you, would it apply to Web Console and CLI, or it only apply on Web Console only? Anyone? No one? Okay.
CLI,
Short answer
really?
it applied to both. So for Web Console, for the AWS console, they call it console. The web page is called console, because every time you log in, you have to submit your 2FA, right? From there, you already get the session. So every time you call a session, you will have a 2FA token state set to true. As a result, you can access all those MFA protected multi-factor, it's called.
yeah, but
MFA
that's a
protected.
good thing, right? Like you want your
It's a good thing.
MFA
Correct.
to access to activate on all kinds of login activity.
Correct. It's a great idea. It's a very great idea. So how do you do that in AWS SDK, for example? So the short answer is here actually. I'm going to increase the size just so that you read it. So AWS had an API called STS. STS is called the secure token service, I think. And they had a thing called get secure token. Okay. And how it works is that you should get your ARN of your MFA device, and then you put in your code. Then you should in this case, if you use a default, then use a default. If not, if you're not using a default, then you should put a profile, the dash profile. So then you will get a token. By the way, there is a caveat for now. The first caveat is U2F, as in YubiKey and all that. It only works on console. It does not work on does not work on this. So if I want to use this, I have to replace my 2FA with from the YubiKey to Google Authenticator. So that's one. But once you have that, you get a secret access key, right? And token and all that. Once you have that, then you do things here. So by default, the way they tell you to use is to set your keys on AWS access key, right? So very simple. Problem. Okay, so first problem. Acceptance. It's not really a problem. It's more like annoyance. So every time before that, my development team do not have to do this. They do not have to do a second sign up. To do this to get actually this information. idea. It's a good idea because multi-factor authentication make it harder for some of those keys to leak out. It's a great idea, but the workflow suddenly changed. So now the developers have to redo it every time. Every time, that every few hours. I think it's 36 hours. So it can. They just have to do it once a day, lah. Once a day or so. But developer now had to keep resetting their authentication token, which is actually a bit annoying. So in this case, we had to write a script to do that, lah. So that's one thing, we had to provide a service for that, lah. But because my team are using npm, I have strong reason to believe that npm do not take environment variable from the shell that calls npm. I could be wrong, but I suspect this is the case. So meaning I need to have a way for setting up for them. So as it turns out, there is a way. The way is to use name profile, because every time you set up your AWS SDK, you will get a .aws/credentials, right? /credentials.
Mhm.
I do not know if there's a library for me to automatically populate these fields. So that's my little problem now, lah. So for once a day,
This is an ini file format, right?
I suspect it's ini file, so I do not know what's the best library to do that.
If
Because,
it's Python, it should be just straightforward, right?
Really,
Yeah.
really, I go find out, lah. But
That's
ideally,
why,
I do
like,
not
I
want.
don't get why Tomo get approved into mainline while the rest of the other formats
Yeah.
take so long. Not
Yes,
even the
I
M1.
know. Correct. So, so either way, I'm trying to not rely too much on dependency, external dependency, because I do not want to assume they have Python running on the system, but I can mandate it. As in, I say something, they have to do it. So yeah, maybe I have to do that, but I rather not to do that all the time. So I'm trying to find a library that is reasonably easy to install. But if I had to use Python for it, then I just use Python for it. Like, it's not a big deal, lah. Because either way, my script, let me copy paste my script. gis.github.com. Let me show you a script. This is actually not proprietary. It's fine to share. It's generic. It's very generic, so I won't get fired. Just kidding. It's generic. So can you see the code?
No, you're not sharing the right screen.
Oh, I'm not sharing the right screen. Let me do that again. Oh, gis.github.com. Okay, then. Okay, so I'm going to enlarge it. So for once, AWS SDK is given, but I do not think people have JQ installed. That's one. And also once they install that, I need to add one more thing for people to actually do it. I'm actually very proud of this hack, by the way, but it's just that I need to provide all the automations to make things easy before before I make things hard for them, lah. Because once we set this up, then on what's the name called? Then on serverless framework, they will just pick it up directly. So there's no extra work needed, as long we provide with the profile. So yes, that's the story, lah. That's one thing I discovered for the whole week, driving me nuts. But it's a good idea. As I say, it's a good idea in a way that even though I have to disable it now, but it's a good idea in a way that even though it looks a bit extra, but you had one extra token for you to protect you from misuse, lah. So I think the use case for this is for you to populate a temporary script somewhere. But yeah.
How's the adoption by your developers? Like, did
I
they
just
say,
finished
"Oh,
the
this
script
an extra"?
yesterday.
Yeah, but
I just finished the
did
script
they
yesterday.
complain that like, hey, this
Uh,
is another 2FA. I just like I have to go to my phone and then get the
no,
key and
I've been banned. I've said I will not adopt it right now because the problem is serverless framework does not support this very well. And also
mm,
I do not want them to manually extract the JSON and put it here one by one every day lah, because it's easily to forget, and it just adds more frustration to a process that is already painful. Do you understand what I mean? So as a
yeah,
result,
well,
I delay this until I finish the automation. So once the automation is ready to go, then I would just tell them to go on. There will be just one command to do everything lah. I mean, it may need additional, how you say it? It may need additional step early on, like installation, but unfortunately, it is what it is lah. So I don't have. So I would rather they adopt it. I would rather to make it easy for them to adopt than to add a lot of stuff, because currently the project is very busy. So I rather not to add on top of more thing for them to be more frustrated. It makes sense, right?
Understandable.
So yeah,
But it's
I mean the point of yeah.
but it's that you still have to plan out a
Correct.
a path.
Yes. So, which is why, yeah, lah. So the point of DevOps is not to add process, is to make it easy for people to do the right thing. Is to do the right thing. Even though AWS FTR had all sort of stupid requirement. No, it's a good requirement, but if you don't do it early on, it's very crazy. So, for example, I can't share that now, lah. But for example, AWS they require to use organization to split a production organization and a dev organization. Then within the dev organization, you need to set up your within the dev organization, you need to set up your CSP, organization policy in JSON, which is annoying. Then you need to make sure that your developer in a small startup environment where developer can see everything. Now suddenly you have to take away their rights. So it's
well,
actually very
that's
painful.
it's painful, but that's how you do
You need to do
like
it. We need to
proper
do it.
auditing, right?
Correct.
Like
Correct.
this is why you have a lot of these insider trading stuff, because
Correct.
someone has extra knowledge of, because you're able to see it, and since you have
Correct.
admin access, you're not supposed to see it.
Correct. So my original plan was to smooth things out, but since we want to do the Amazon foundational review, this is the right thing to do. We just force our way through lah. We just bite the bullet and do it lah. Even though in this case, it's easier just blame AWS for this. So yeah, but either way, this is a good idea. So we should actually do it, and you can do it early on. You should do it early on. To be honest, just make sure that you had all the thing ready.
Yeah, it's better to do it early on, like the best practices in the beginning,
Yeah,
because
correct,
that, like, the habits are there, right? You don't have to
correct.
relearn all of these things. The problem is, like,
Uh,
if you're used to like the easy
uh-huh.
way of doing things, and then now you
Yep,
have to do the things the proper way, and
yep,
the proper way is a bit more involved, and that becomes
correct.
the friction point.
So the word for that is called organizational inertia. So why is inertia? Because once you do things, it's hard to change. It's very hard to change. So which is why it's called organizational inertia lah. So let me show you. Then here's my second run, which I don't really like. Serverless framework.
I think if you need,
Serverless.
I think
Uh-huh.
the opinion is if you need a framework for serverless, it's defeated the purpose already, right? Something like that.
I don't know. In this case, okay, so I'm going to show you the alternative way, the Amazon way to deploy serverless. deploy serverless, deploy Lambda. Okay, so there is multiple way to deploy Lambda. One way is where the hell is it? There is one called Okay, so one way is to upload a zip file manually. Okay, so before that, I do not have my Amazon console ready, but the first way is you can write the code on the Lambda. Worst idea ever, because now your code is not trackable or it's not tracked on Git. Then you had all sort of things, so do not do that. Second way is you can zip your code as a part of the pipeline. Then you upload the code to the Lambda. That is common for you to do that. Then the third way is there is this thing. Where the hell is it? Layers. SAM. So the
What is SAM?
third
What does SAM
it's
mean?
called serverless application model. So this is the AWS answer for serverless. So this will be the official way for you to manage your application. They have some good idea here, but often when you do serverless, if anything that is more than 2 service, then you have to deploy more than 2 service. Then you probably have to use serverless SAM or serverless framework. And the reason is just easier to deploy. And the reason why you may have multiple service is because there's two ways for you to build your Lambda application. One is you deploy your application, the whole application in full into Lambda. Then you use your application routing to handle all the routing by itself. One advantage for that is you can just use your code lah. There's nothing how I say it. You already know the code, you know how routing works, you don't need to learn new things, right? And that's fine. That is fine. The only thing is you can't edit your code. You can't edit your code on the Lambda page, but that's fine. You don't do that anyway.
But you can redeploy, right? You can edit locally and then redeploy the thing.
Correct. That's the point. The only way for you to do that is like that lah.
Yeah.
I try to find the second one. The second one here.
Well, that would be actually good if each deployment is tracked. It's not like FTP where you just deploy and
Correct.
you don't have
Precisely.
an audit, right?
Yeah, which is why I call this. This is the better way than the first way, which is upload your zip manually without Git or edit the code directly on the Lambda. So that's one. So this is the good one. Resource. I'm trying to find you a resource. Function. Okay, I don't have good one here. But doesn't matter for now. That's one way. The second, actually, I might as well just use the opportunity to show you the second way. The second way is to actually have different Lambda. So you have 2 Lambda. Then each of them will have a different part. So in this case, it can have the same part but different method, and that's fine. So you have 2 different Lambda to do 2 different things. So instead of relying on your application server like Rails or Flask or Django, whatever, you rely on API gateway to do the work. And serverless will automatically allocate the API gateway for you. So you can do it manually as well once you deploy, but serverless can do this for you. So why you may want to use this is because with this you can use the advantage of serverless framework to monitor your API. You can each serverless framework API gateway have ways for you to manipulate the API query. You can even rate limit and whatnot. So which is actually very cool to have. So, but the catch, as you said, now you got two different lambda, lah, which is not really as cool. Lah. Then we have, I'm trying to, but I'm trying to find a cool one because this thing changed so much. It's more like I forget serverless framework. So here's an example, and also serverless framework actually allows you to have two different cron jobs, for example, which makes sense because not all project had each worker may have different cron jobs, so you can manage it there. So I'm trying to find one that define all the resources, which is ridiculous. I don't know where the hell it is now. We have a lot of those. So either way, one cool thing is give you all the convenience. One bad thing about serverless framework, it allows you to define your resource.
Why is it a bad thing?
automatically.
Was it a good thing or a
Okay,
bad thing?
it's a neutral thing. Okay, it's a neutral thing. Why I would say that? Okay, here you are. So if you get started, you're a small team, you do not want to care, you really do not care about managing your resources, managing your user, your internal user permission and whatnot. It's okay. It's actually okay for you to use serverless to define things for you. Okay, to define things for you. The catch is when you destroy the application by default, all these resource will be destroyed as well, right? In early on, that's fine because when you write an application, then you only have one thing to care about, one application, one set of small application to get started in your project as a startup, as a freelance, etc. And that's fine. You can define everything here. It make it easy for you to manage less stuff in your headspace, and that's awesome. The catch is let's say you decide that Python sucks. These are Python software. Python sucks. You want to do it in Rust, and you also decide that you do not want to. Let me think. Okay, so the lambda is already on Python, so you can't just replace the runtime, right? So you actually have to create a new one. So there's no guarantee that this resource get maintained. So in some situation, it's may be a good idea to actually separate creation of this resource. For example, a user role that have this permission, or a DynamoDB which with all these attributes, right? It may be a good idea at certain level you should able to move it out so that you
separate
can
it
replace.
to where? Like separate it and run it in a different server or from separate
No.
serverless?
No, separate the creation and management of these resources. So in this case, either so your option can be, okay, I would suggest you to start looking at CDK, for example, or even Terraform. So at one level, you need to use Terraform or CDK to actually define and manage your resources, right? So that you can experiment with your worker. You can replace your worker as you need without affecting the resources. Does that make sense? So in
So
this
it's
case,
like it's like you do your provisioner is different, not
correct.
this serverless thing, but a different provisioner.
Correct. So in this case, if you do it early on from serverless, then you will have to recreate it. Or for example, or maybe I do not know whether I know for sure serverless does not reread the existing resource, but I do not know whether Terraform can handle it. So this is the issue. The issue is if you do it on serverless, then you need to use an option called there's an option to actually keep the resource. When you remove it, the resource still exists. but that's an extra thing you may have to do. And if you not stop being managed by serverless, then why is even there? Then you should actually use at one level. You should use your other type of thing to manage of resource anyway. Know what I mean? So as a result, what I would suggest is, even though it's very early on, get one of those different various things to manage your resource and use serverless to refer to it, so that you can experiment the hell out of your code. But those resources are the thing that don't change often, and that to me is a better idea than managing everything in serverless. As I say, it's not a bad thing to do it in serverless, but it's not hard to do it with Terraform, CDK anyway.
Mhm.
So
But why do you think Amazon allowed the creation of these resources on
uh,
the serverless? It's not
no,
necessarily serverless. Right?
a serverless framework is not owned by Amazon, by the way. It's a separate company. And
Ah,
what they
okay.
do is they take this YAML file and generate the CloudFormation template that,
Okay.
along the way. So it's a CloudFormation template that can generate all the resources, and
Yeah.
also the CloudFormation template to deploy. That's what they do
That's
actually.
quite a misnomer because now you have actual servers to manage for your serverless framework.
No, there's no server involved, because they have a
Well, your
template.
cloud formation, you run a cloud formation to run those resources as servers, right?
Yeah, it's just like first time. CloudFormation is just one time run to define everything. Just define the.
Mm,
It's like Puppet in a way, or even what's the one that you're familiar with?
yeah, Ansible or Chef.
Ansible. Yeah. So it's a runtime. You just run one time, right?
Yeah,
Then you run a
but that's
second time.
exactly
Then you
what we
can.
use to provision servers.
Yeah, precisely,
So that's why
precisely.
I'm getting the like the connection there. Like you have a
Yeah.
serverless framework to provision
Yes.
servers so that you can run your serverless application on top
Correct.
of it.
Correct. And also by default, I know that AWS SAM do the same thing, but uh, actually they do okay. This SAM create exists after serverless framework exists. Okay, by the
Mm.
way, so that's one, and you can actually define resources. I believe you can define resources. I could be wrong. I did not use this as much. I do not use this as much as I love to know myself lah. But I know for
Mhm.
sure that by default they will create API gateway, because API gateway actually is a default. It's almost a default way for you to interact with your serverless lah. Because you create a lambda so that you create a web service. So give a moment. I talk too much.
If
But
you want
yeah.
us to, if you want us to help
Mhm.
test your production environment, you can give us your credentials.
Yeah, so I hope then people will kill me. I get fired. Etc. You better give me enough
Yeah.
money
So
to quit my
the
job.
solution there is to give someone else's workspace to us, and then we can fix them. Then that person
Yes,
gets fired, right? So that's how you do it.
yes, correct. So so in short, yeah, what I like about serverless, you can throw away all the headspace. So it's the same for SAM and whatnot. The idea is you can group in one place so you don't care about it too much. But the catch is there will be a time when your organization grows. Your resource need to be maintained by someone else somewhere else, right? So in the intermediate, smaller level, you may want to reuse the same resource for your different application. Maybe you have a cron job and whatnot that use different language because nobody can agree on one language, for example. So that may be one way. Or then to a much bigger future when you want the infrastructure, the resource to be more static. So maybe you don't even and even audited all the time, then you just split it up lah. So then you just refer to it. So it's easy to do. There's no reason not to do it lah, to be honest. So
Mhm.
yeah, that's my complaint about serverless actually. It make things easy, but it make things easy without consequence. So as in there is consequence, people just don't think about it, which is why I don't. Yeah, I don't like the language. I don't like it too much. It's not a fault of the developer per se. It's just that a lot of these need to be taught. It's often not taught anywhere.
I'm not sure if you want to teach like
Yeah,
specifically AWS serverless. Like this is, I think, something beyond like the usual, because you in uh I guess in school you're taught, right? You have a computer, you have an input, you have processing, you have output, and those things, right?
yeah,
This is a bit
yeah,
different because now you have, yeah, you have processing, but it's not the same processing as you would do with a normal web server, where you have
yeah, yeah,
a CGI
yeah.
process from before, and then so you have
Correct.
your request, your processing, and your response. It maps very cleanly
Yeah.
to that, whereas this is different. Like, I guess it's the
Yes,
same,
it's
but
very
it's
different.
slightly different.
Yeah,
So
slightly different. Correct.
it's and that's why it needs a different way of thinking as well, and it's very
Yep.
specific to AWS, because different serverless providers have different ways of thinking how serverless should be implemented, and so there's
Yeah.
no one even one how do you say one standard for serverless. I-
Yes.
or if you were to tell me about serverless without telling context, I would probably tell you that, oh, serverless is probably something like IPFS or something like that, where um,
Yeah.
there's no central server to get information from. Everyone is getting like pieces and files, and then now you have uh, like if everyone has the data, then nobody has the data, or something like that. Like if everyone is a server,
Yes.
then nobody is a server, and then that's serverless. That's how I
Yeah.
would define it, but it's different in this case, right? I
Correct.
would I
So
would think that this serverless thing is probably closer to a Kubernetes engine, where it's
right.
spread out, right? You have
Yes.
your servers living everywhere else, and then the Kubernetes engine is the one
Uh,
that manages the servers
yes.
rather than you. And
Yeah.
this is very similar
The
to the concept.
separation of responsibility as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Correct.
So you
But
don't think about
yeah.
your application server anymore. You just think about your Kubernetes engine you deploy to that. I guess it's the same
Yes.
here. Yeah, you don't think about your application, where is it living, but
Yep.
it's in your serverless system.
Yeah. 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 It's the same in the way that you don't have to care where you deploy it. Just that it's running. So that's the selling part about serverless and all this thing, right? That's the whole point for it. It's just that when you destroy, but if you think about it, if when I write Puppet last time, when I deploy something, I do destroy the whole thing. No, actually I don't destroy the whole thing. There is part we only destroy, even though it's one code base, and it's one command to deploy everything, we can control what to be destroyed, and it's not a default thing. So yeah, I'm still thinking maybe it's not a bad thing, but I don't know. On the other hand, YAML is not a definition is not a great idea to manage stuff.
Oh,
Give me a
YAML
moment.
is fine. It's just
Yeah,
it's similar to XML. I mean, you need a way for human defined configuration um, to be human readable, right?
I'll
So
be
that you
back.
can
Okay.
work with that.
Okay.
So the problem
With
with I think the problem with YAML and all of these like Kubernetes configuration, it becomes too much. It's supposed to be human readable, but it's
yep,
not
that's the
human understandable. When you
yep.
see like a Helm chart YAML, for example, it's like
And
there's so
especially
much
back then,
information.
yeah, and especially back then, the version is that they have issue with of when they cannot identify whether the value is the type of the value,
Mhm.
which like when in Kubernetes most of the time it expected things to be in string if for
Yeah.
normal config.
Yeah.
But if you put a
Mhm.
one or true, it's gonna be you have to wrap it
Yeah.
in codes. So
Mhm.
Yes.
So it becomes it's what happened is that it's still human readable, but it's not human understandable. Like there's just so
Yes.
many things, and you can't see it at a glance. You have to go through it, and you don't even understand what is happening.
it's so nested as
Where
well.
yeah,
Uh-huh.
exactly, and it doesn't fit on the screen. It's like when you're doing a proper program, right? And you never like the old PHP code without Laravel, for example. You just have a
Yep.
huge PHP function that just does everything in one module. I don't know what PHP calls itself,
Yes.
block function, and it's just difficult to understand. It's readable, it's still
Yes.
PHP, but it's not understandable at all. So I guess that is
Yeah.
I think I would say the problem with YAML. Not
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
it's not a good thing, because it's a lot more readable than XML. You don't have to care about the multiple tags and namespaces and all of these things. All you need to do is
Yes.
like yeah, just remember a few rules. But sometimes
Correct.
using that for configuration and putting everything into a single file would be very, very confusing.
Yes. Oh, I now remember what's my problem with serverless configuration, because when you deploy an application, they will also check for resource creation and all that, which I think is a bit weird. Okay, so this is my experience in on the app where we deploy the whole thing, right? We do not necessarily deploy application uh, using using what's the name called, Puppet at one time. Puppet do all the thing, but they also know the state of infrastructure we run, so they only run one thing. It's a bit more clear. That's my problem with using serverless framework. But also in
Hmm.
practice, we have multiple team, and multiple team are sharing the infrastructure and deploy things the different way. We don't have like every team use the way to deploy. Whereas in on app,
Hmm.
everyone there is like one way to deploy either way. So when we do have to use Puppet to deploy, we use the same Puppet to deploy. So that's my little problem now. So, and it makes sense because when you build your serverless framework application, you define your functions. You define your functions by the application you want. So, for example, a payment system, and let's say a backend processing system. It will be two different applications, so it will be two different serverless configuration. Then
Well, you
comes the
hope.
problem of,
We
huh?
don't know if the you hope
Yeah,
it's two different ones. Otherwise, it's going to be a
yeah,
problem to maintain.
correct. So as a result, you cannot have, if you have only one of these to create a shared resource between the two, it will get a bit messy. That's my problem now, actually. That's my
Mm.
problem now. So yeah, which is why I don't like serverless framework. In this context, I don't like it because we have shared resource between two different applications. So having them to define one, it's a bit messy. But if you have only one application, it may be okay. It may be okay, just so you know. But context matters. This is one of those cases where context matters. So yeah. So and this is my run with serverless framework. It's not always wrong, but it is this. And by the way, with that said, I'm done with serverless framework, and let me share the last few things. So this is the new book I bought. It's called the Lady Astronaut series. So it's about women fight to space because the world is fucked up, but in this world, the Earth got hit by an asteroid, caused environmental disaster, but men are still racist, so sexist. So yeah, that's one. Then the other one I have soon is actually I'm gonna share the same screen again. Why the hell they stop? Well, I don't understand. La, la, allow. The next one I have. Oh, I closed the tab. I actually bought it without realizing that I already had too much book to read. Uh, Harry Turtledov's uh, 3 miles down. So 3 miles down. Do you heard of the story of don't not now, I don't care. Do you heard of story of the Gloma Explorer? I should look it up.
No,
A Gloma Explorer is
it
so
sounds like
in
Dora the Explorer.
so during the Cold War, there's a nucleus. The Russian had a nuclear submarine crash off the coast of Hawaii. Okay, unfortunately, the CIA want to get some information from the submarine, but unfortunately, because the Soviet Navy is watching it, and no one have the ability to retrieve the ship, so the CIA contracted one of the richest guy around Hughes, right, to build a ship. The ship is called the Gloma Explorer. It's so big, and it had a cover story to actually, it's an experimental ship to try to mine for manganese on the sea. Whereas it's
Mhm.
so big, it can actually raise submarines, so that the CIA can actually get the secret from the Soviet submarine. So but they had cover story lah. So the ship is so crazy. So this is an alternate history story that have the same thing, except the thing that break the nuclear submarine, the Soviet submarine, is an alien. So yeah. So yeah,
Okay.
it's an interesting thing.
And your when do you plan finishing reading this?
After I finish one book and Color of Magic,
Mm.
The magic's
so
nice.
I just begin to read Color of Magic by Terry Pratchett. It's the first book in the
Magic is love.
for this whole series. So in short, I bought too many books, so now I need to finish all those books
I think on my
before I can
backlog
buy
from
new books.
2019.
Okay, I don't have something that long. I have something called Kaiju number eight. So either way, with that said, thanks for listening. Maybe I'll do a book review soon again, maybe in the future again. So thanks for listening and goodbye.
Right.
Bye. See you next.